Welcome to the Christopher Jimenez Show. This is episode number 19 of the podcast. Today I'm going to be talking about three different things. First will be crappy runs, next will be St. Patrick, and then finally we'll end up with Schnebly's winery. Now, I have a problem, and this is a really bad problem. I think I have a half marathon hangover. As you know, I ran my first half marathon at the end of February. It is almost the end of March, and I've logged about, I think, like 6 or 7 runs on my Nike Plus app. I know I walked a few times, recorded on my Endomundo. I'm trying to keep them separate because I want to know exactly what pace I'm doing on my own. And sometimes when I go out walking, if I use the Nike running app, it's going to say I finished a run in like 20 minutes, and it's going to kill my stats, and I don't know really where I am or where I stand. It was tough. I decided that I was gonna get into it today, and I was actually this weekend, and I was gonna bust it, and I'm gonna do it. And I went out yesterday. It was 82 degrees outside, and I know that most of the running community is complaining because they're under snow, and I can't imagine that because I live in Miami. But right now it's boiling hot outside, and you know what? The night before it rained like almost all night, so it was super humid, super muggy, and 82 degrees yesterday. And then I went out. I started really, really well, but I ended up just like dying, absolutely dying. Like I lost all my energy, and I was out about as far as I could go, and I had to turn around and try to make it back. It turned out to be like a halfway point because I was like 2 miles out. I had to come 2 miles back, so I almost did maybe a mile and 1.8 miles. So it wasn't quite 4 miles, but man, it was tough. And then today I thought I would redeem myself, and I did as far as pace goes. But it was 90 today, and I ran out there in the hot sun. I mean, it just was not cool. And I think we're starting to get to that point in South Florida training where it's just going to be like this. I'm not going to be happy with my pace, but I just have to keep reminding myself that, it's all about the work being put in, and I'm going to build muscle, I'm going to build endurance, I'm going to build strength, and when temperatures drop down again, I should be ready to make a burst and make a jump in the pace department. So that's where I am right now with the running. Now, you probably know, last Sunday was St. Patrick's Day. It's one of my favorite holidays, not just because of the color green, not just because of the beer, but because I really do, like the story of St. Patrick. St. Patrick was one of the most verifiable early saints in all of Christendom, in all of hagiography, which is the study of the saints. We know for a fact from his own writings that he was captured at the age of 16 by Irish pagans, forced to become a servant, a slave, and then finally he escaped. I believe it was like 6 years after 6 years in captivity, to go back to his native Britain. And once he went back, he went up. He grew up through the church. He became a cleric, and then and was sent back to Ireland to preach the gospel to the Irish. And it helped that he was fluent in the language and in the customs of pagan Ireland. And it just kind of reminds me that even though you may find yourself in a tough time or in a place where you have no clue what's going on or what God is doing, or even if there's a God, just know that things are going to work together for the good to those who love God and who are called according to His purposes. And God will take you through that time, and then He'll show you maybe years down the line that maybe what you're going through right now is preparing you for something else. I guess you could say, kind of like my whole running thing is a microcosm of that point where I may be going through some summer training. It's going to be really hot. I'm not going to be doing as well as I really want to, but maybe someday, maybe in the winter, I'll see the benefits of this training, even though I wasn't going as fast as I want to. But anyway, that's not the cool thing about St. Patrick. The cool thing about St. Patrick is, there's the legend that he banished the snakes from Ireland. And I got to thinking about that this past week, and I actually wrote about it in my We Talk of Holy Things blog, wetalkofholythings.com. Just a little plug there. And, I got to thinking about snakes and snakes in the Bible, and really a snake in a Bible is, according to, biblical, the biblical archetype is to be crafty, is to be cunning, is to be kind of a trickster, which, quite frankly, holds true for all cultures, is that the snake is not really a very trusted individual. And especially if you expand the snake metaphor to the dragon metaphor, it's a completely bad thing. Snakes are bad. You have that whole incident with the woman and the serpent and Adam and Eve. I should say the woman is Eve. And the serpent in Genesis chapter 3, where the serpent is so tricky that he gets mankind to go from thou shalt not eat the tree, to more of a statement like, thou shalt not pass up eating of the tree. So he turns the argument around completely on us, and at the end we are cursed to have enmity between the snake and the woman, and between the woman's seed, which is a capital S, which refers to the Lord Jesus, and the serpent's, where the serpent will bruise his heel, and he will crush the serpent's head. And I got to thinking about that, and I got to thinking also about this venom, this sting. The Bible refers to it as the sting of death. And when you make an anti-venom, well, what do? Well, first you capture the snake that you want to make an anti-venom for. You basically grab him by the head, and you pry his jaws open, and place his fangs onto like a plate, and milk the venom out of the fangs. And then you take that venom, that pure venom, mix it in with, dilute it, and then inject it into like a cow or sheep, so that diluted venom is so weak that it won't hurt the host, and that the host will be able to create the antibodies to fight the venom. And then what you do is you pull that blood out of that animal, you isolate the antivenoms, and then that pure antivenom substance, I should say antibodies. You pull the antibodies out, isolate those, and then that becomes the antivenom that you can put into a person in order to boost their immune system, so that they can fight off the sting or the bite, the fangs, the venom of a snake. And isn't that what the Lord Jesus did? As he first was, his heel was bruised. When the Lord Jesus came, and we're going to celebrate this next week with Good Friday. Good Friday, when the Lord Jesus died on the cross, he took the sting of death, and just like the sheep, the sheep in and of itself creates the antibodies that is able to fight the injection. Well, the Lord Jesus, in and of himself, was able to fight off death and rise again on the third day. He says that I have the power to lay down my life, I have the power to take it back up again. Well, he proved it by rising again on Easter Sunday. And now, just like that blood has to be drawn out of the animal and then isolated to be applied to the human being who is bit by a snake, well, the blood of the Lord Jesus needs to be applied to the man who's been infected with sin. And haven't we all been infected with the wages of sin, which leads to death? Death has been destroyed. Death has been beaten. It has no victory. The victory is Christ. We can have victory through the Lord Jesus Christ. We can have his blood applied to us. And that will, in essence, defeat death in our own lives. If you don't, well, unfortunately, there's nothing within you that can defeat the death. Just like a man who's bitten by a snake most likely will die without an antivenom. Those were just my thoughts. And if you think about it, Did St. Patrick really drive all the snakes out of Ireland? Most geologists or most scientists would say that post-glacial Ireland probably never had snakes, so he probably never even had the opportunity to. But you know what? Armed with the gospel, which is the antivenom, well, he definitely had the antivenom to defeat the serpent, that biblical metaphor, the biblical archetype for sin and death. So yes, I mean, in a spiritual sense, you can say that armed with the gospel, St. Patrick did bring the cure for the serpent in Ireland. Anyway, let's that was a kind of a deep, heavy topic to tackle, and this next one is really light. Last night I had date night with my wife, and we went to Schnebly's winery. We had a Groupon which we were able to redeem for some wine tasting. And it was great because we bought 2 passes, and each pass allows you to have 5 tastings. So we ended up tasting 10 different wines. Now here's the thing about Schnebly's. It's the southernmost winery. It's located out here in the Redlands, and they do not grow any grapes. They refuse to use grape juice in any of their wines. They only use tropical fruits. They have they make lychee, guava, carambola, which is the star fruit. They also have passion fruit wines. They have coconut wines, and they also have a avocado wine, which is actually quite good. And they also have like their hurricane series. They have category 1, category 2, category 3, which are mixtures of the different wines. So the Groupon included like a $15 credit towards the purchase of a whole bottle of wine. So we ended up buying a bottle of wine. It was like $20 because it was one of the more expensive ones. Lychee is going out of season, so if it's a lychee a wine that requires the lychee fruit, the price has gone up. And we really liked the category 3 wine, which included, of course, the lychee, guava, and carambola fruits, and those wines were mixed together, and it was absolutely delicious. It went down smooth. It was like one of their least dry wines. The avocado, I believe it's called the Avovino, is their most dry wine. They were all excellent. Let me just lay that right out there. They were all good. Clearly, some more palatable than others, as far as my personal taste for sweetness and all that. But that was the one we decided we liked, so we went down. It was an excellent Groupon. It was super cheap. It was like $20 or something like that. I mean, it was really cheap. And we had a great time tasting wines. The bartender was great. She was talking to us about all the different wines and took our picture and all that good stuff. So it's really fun. I really do suggest that if anyone's a native of Miami, to go ahead and check it out. The place is always hopping on a Saturday night, I found. And if you're coming to visit, well, this is definitely something that you need to do. If you like wine, if you like this beautiful scenery, because it's gorgeous scenery. They have a facade on their winery that's like a rock waterfall, super tropical. It's really nice. So I totally recommend it. It's a great thing almost a must see if you're down in Miami, and obviously over the age of 21. So that's my podcast. If you have any questions or comments you want to leave me, you can always find me on Twitter. My handle is CJMNZ8. You can also read my blog post about St. Patrick's Day at wetalkofholythings.com. I thank you so much for listening. You have a great day.